It is 2024. I cannot believe it. Playing my 9th year now of pickleball. I got introduced to the sport and didn't think a whole lot of it and thought it was a super silly name and thought there was no way in heck I was going to play this game called pickleball. There was a gentleman by the name of Bill Chott who was a member at my tennis club back in Yakima, Washington. We used to call him Ball Machine Bill. That guy was on the ball machine like 3 hours a day. Anyhow, so about 6 months in of him bugging me, I finally showed up at a local YMCA and tried this game called pickleball. And there was 3 courts going on. Court 1 was like a 3-0 court. Court 2 was 3-5. Court 3 was like a 4-0 court. So I thought, hey, you know what? I'm a 5-0 tennis player. I think I'm kind of a stud. I'm going to go check out that 4-0 plus court. Nobody was under 75 years old there. And I got my ass kicked and went home that night. A true legend, Hall of Famer by the name of Wes Gabrielson, at that time was the guy. And I kid you not, I watched a ton of pickleball, got to know Wes's game super well and figured out like just the general strategy and what the hell I should do out there playing doubles. Came back the next week and I freaking took their heads off. And here we are 9 years later. What's going on? My name is Tyson McGuffin. Welcome to the McGuffin Show. Happy to be back here. It is 2024. I cannot believe it. Playing my 9th year now of pickleball. Kind of funny how I got introduced to the sport and didn't think a whole lot of it and thought it was a super silly name and thought there was no way in heck I was going to play this game called pickleball. There was a gentleman by the name of Bill Chott who was a member at my tennis club back in Yakima, Washington. We used to watch UFC fights together. He was a big wrestler, big combat sport junkie. And we used to call him Ball Machine Bill, if you know what I mean. That guy was on the ball machine like 3 hours a day. And anyhow, so about 6 months in of him bugging me, I finally showed up at a local YMCA and tried this game called pickleball. And there was 3 courts going on. Court 1 was like a 3-0 court. Court 2 was 3-5. K-Max heard the story way too many times. And Court 3 was like a 4-0 court. So I thought, hey, you know what? I'm a 5-0 tennis player. I think I'm kind of a stud. I'm going to go check out that 4-0 plus court. And, there's 80 people there. Balls are everywhere. We're playing with the jugs ball back in the day. Nobody was under 75 years old there. And I got my ass kicked and went home that night. And there was a stud, a true legend, Hall of Famer by the name of Wes Gabrielson, who at that time was the guy. And I kid you not, I watched a ton of pickleball on that Oregon Funk, if you know what I mean. And got to know Wes's game super well and figured out like just the general strategy and what the hell I should do out there playing doubles. Came back the next week and I freaking took their heads off. and here we are 9 years later. K-Max, my guy, got my wife here. Met Kyle through pickleball. Met this princess, 2018. She was in my pickleball 101 class. And it's a beautiful day here in Coeur d'Alene. K-Max, what's going on?
What's going on, man? First pod of 2024. And Tyson, I feel like every pickleball pro has like an early story of them getting very humbled by some senior citizens before they fully dive in. So big year for pickleball. Nothing but excitement on my end.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, take a look at yourself, man. I mean, when we first met, you were, you were in a different profession. This was like what, 2019?
Yeah, 2017, 18, somewhere in there. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. And please tell the story of me being an a-hole and brushing you off. Please.
No, so I probably played for, around 6 months or so. And I'd been playing with, at the time, there wasn't really pros. There were just 5-0s mixed in with, the best around. And
wannabe pros.
I had a local 5-0 that was actually my high school tennis coach, Doug Hastings, that had been playing some tournaments. He was the one who got me into it. So I spent about 6 months kind of playing, alongside him and with whatever groups we could find. So I wasn't brand new, but I stalked all the best players. So when I moved to Spokane, I definitely looked you up, was excited because I think you were the number 2 guy in the world at that time, 1 or 2, somewhere in that range. And so I remember I cornered you at the gym because you're the local teaching pro there. And I was like, hey, I just moved here. Like, I'm a 5-0 looking to play more. And in a very classy way, you totally brushed me off, was like, I've got a lot going on. I'm traveling on the weekends for tournaments.
Right.
And you like set me up with the advanced group. So, I mean, truth be told, it was probably a good level for me to test myself against. But, after a couple of months of beating up on those guys, I think I earned my place to get you on the practice court and get humbled by you for the next several years.
Yep. And soon enough, about, 6 or 8 months later, this guy was taking games off me. And there was one particular day, he's playing well. using that forehand, using that big serve,
you know.
grinding away. We're out there playing singles, sweating through shirts. And there was so funny. This is my true psycho self, but very exhausting for my wife. Is we were playing at North Park. I think K-Mac took 2 or 3 games off me that night, and I think one of the games he stomped me. And I remember driving home that night, and all I could think about was coming back the next day and kicking this man's ass. I couldn't even sleep. I couldn't eat. Stomach hurt.
Oh, I love that.
And I don't know. I think for you to reach a certain level, in anything, you kind of have to have a couple screws loose, and that is me to a T. Mama,
well, I think definitely champion mindset. If you ask a lot of champions, it seems like most of them hate losing. Like even quite a bit more than they love winning, right? So when you lose to someone that you feel like you shouldn't, like you have to have that dog in you, I feel like, to be a champion.
Yeah, I mean, take a look at that Jordan documentary on Netflix. Like he wasn't all that nice to his teammates. Like he built those guys up. He was tough on them. He grinded them down, but he made them all better, right? And a lot of those guys thought he was way too tough and all this, but it was just he had to find a certain level. He had to build everybody else around him. And no, it's so true. That's that champion mindset. I think Kobe was the same way. Mm-hmm. Mama, how'd you get started?
Playing pickle?
Yeah.
Well, I used to play racquetball. I played racquetball, and I used to travel to Spokane with my mom and my stepbrother and play in a little racquetball league. And so we do that like once a week. We'd meet like halfway and then carpool into Spokane. And I was playing that for a while, and then life kind of transitioned, and I was going down to Mexico pretty frequently to like visit my mom, or I would fly down because she lives down there, so I would fly down just like for a couple days at a time or whatever, just to kind of get away. And so I was down there, and of course there's no racquetball in Mexico, at least not. Well, I'm sure there's plenty of racquetball in Mexico, but in the small little fishing town, there's nothing. So there they had pickleball, and so my mom was really playing a lot at that point, and this was even before Trace Palapas was there. But so she introduced me to pickleball, and the pro down there told me, he said, Meg, he's like, quit playing racquetball and just go find a local pro like in your area, look them up and just take some classes. And I'm like, oh, and he's like, no, I'm going to do it. So he like looks it up and he's like, here's this guy Tyson, reach out to him, like sign up for this, like his group classes and just do it. And I'm like, okay. So sure enough, I think I sent a message on Facebook and got signed up for your 101, 102. And and that's all she wrote. Like all
she wrote.
I had so much fun. I like showed up and I was probably half the age of everybody else there. And it was like during the day. So granted, like probably a lot of people my age were probably at work, but I was like working for myself at that point. So I was able to sneak away. And so, it was like, I fell in love with the people. I fell in love with too, just like how all these people of all different ages were having so much fun together, and they were like competitive, and and a lot of them too, like came with no sport background, but just like loved it so much. And it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, that was at
Meg. Did you ever dabble back in racquetball, or do you hang up your racquetball racket?
No, I felt like there was a couple things that I had to overcome in the difference between racquetball and pickleball. And so for me, just not being that advanced, I like said I would never touch a racket again just because it took me a while to like, I think just like the strokes and things, I wasn't about to go back to racquetball. So haven't touched it since.
And K-Mac, if there was one, technique flaw that she had, as we always see in camps, what is it? Racquetball players.
The old racquetball wrist.
No, using her wrist.
Tough to dial that wrist.
Calm that thing down.
Active.
It was super active.
Hey, that and rushing, right? Like the best pickleball, according to these sweet ladies who are just brutally honest, that I've ever played is when I was like 8 months pregnant. And I couldn't run through everything like I typically do. And so I had to be more selective with my shots and played good pickleball when I couldn't move. So
and there's something to that. You slow down, the ball gets a little bigger. You recognize how much time you have. The game's a little easier, Yeah.
I just need it forced on me, apparently.
So anyhow, we told our story. Love the sport. Grateful for 2024. Grateful for our children being healthy. All that good stuff. And speaking of 2024, now I'm 34. Believe that. And for my birthday, kind of sweet, we flew to Vegas early on in the week, a couple weeks ago, and Had a cool little video shoot with my new brand sponsor, JOOLA. There's been a lot of buzz about that. So got to spend the whole day with those guys, Tom and their whole content team. And throughout this whole journey, like I've been scared like there was no tomorrow with just change and, you know, making this new move. And after being with Selkirk for 8 years, and I didn't know if it felt right, but now I'm in a position where it feels very right. I have a ton of clarity, and I trust those guys and think very highly of them. And a huge fan of Tom and Richard. Went to Richard's house. They're in Maryland. Went to the headquarters as well. Got to meet the whole team, and looks like I have a signature paddle coming out called Magnus. Kind of cool. So we went through a couple different names, Greek names, Latin names, and Magnus kind of resonated to me. Stands for the gladiator in the arena. That's the most skilled. Stands for also greatness. Yeah, I thought that represented me and the way I train and the way that I am just trying to push myself to be like and all that. So. Yes, we did this whole content day, got to hang out with our content team. They're all very skilled, and kind of a funny story. A lot took place that day, a lot of laughing, but Tom was there. Tom's a big combat sport guy, and I was doing this like video pose, and Tom's like, yeah, make sure you go in and out. And he said in and out a couple times, and I'm like, Tom, okay, if there's one thing I'm great at in life, it's going in and out. Okay? Right? You know, I got a couple skill sets in life, right? You know, just a couple. But that is definitely one of them. Oh my gosh. K-Mac would say the same.
Oh, right.
He would. Yeah, true alpha, right?
You got to own what you're good at, right?
Yeah, you know, good.
Speaking of the Magnus paddle, in alpha, the version that you're playing with right now is the alpha version of the Magnus paddle. So it's not out yet, but the version of it is.
Yeah. So paddle should be coming out in a couple months.
Yep. It'll be soon.
Can we talk about the date or?
I don't think we have a specific date, but for sure, there's a giveaway going on. I think there's doing signed hat giveaway, which is really cool. You get a signed JOOLA hat, and I believe if you enter the giveaway for the hat, you get to be on a pre-list, so you'll be the first notified when the paddle debuts. And so you can try to grab one before they sell out. So, cool. so sign up for the giveaway, and then you'll be on the first list to get notified. Yeah,
and I just felt like JOOLA aligned very well with my brand. You know, I mean, obviously, it seems like the two leading brands right now is Selkirk and JOOLA. And from an engineer standpoint, marketing, content, being more global, let me kind of spread my wings a little bit. I just thought it was the right move. You know, shout out to Selkirk. I mean, I've been with those guys for the last 8 years now. Still got a lot of love and very grateful for Rob and Mike and what they've done for me. And I think we've definitely built each other.
It was such a process. Like, it's so scary, and it's such a an emotional thing, you know, because I think, you know, they're like family. Like, we've been with them forever.
Live in the same
area. Yeah, we live there in our backyard, and we totally believe in like what they're trying to accomplish and kind of their roadmap, right, to the future. And I think the evolution of your brand and where it's going, and just kind of the evolution, which is not a negative thing whatsoever. I just think the worlds that Selkirk's expanding in maybe don't align with the pro side of how you're expanding your pro career. And so it just simply was like, you know, and it was really hard for us because it took a long time to like get to that conclusion, I guess, because, you know, I think we wanted to keep trying to fit in that old model. And I think for us, like, when we finally like looked at the big picture, and I think credit to Selkirk too, because I think they're kind of moving in different directions as well. And so this kind of allows for both to kind of continue on. But can't say enough about the Barnes, their whole family, and just wishing them like years and years and years of success. And I know that they'll continue to kill it regardless. And so we can be more grateful to have started there. And I think too, it's cool because I think they're young guys as well. We all grew up, you know, you guys especially like grew up in the industry together, saw it from the beginning when there was no tour to now we've got 2 tours that are merging. And, you know, it's just the landscape is completely different.
And I mean, it's tough when a company's treated you, well for a long time. You've been with them, the whole time. But I just think that, a lot of times an athlete just hits a point where it's, it's time to move on. And at least it's not a situation where you're leaving Selkirk high and dry. I mean, they're still doing really well. They're still a major force in pickleball. And they've done a lot of things right and treated a lot of people well. So they deserve to be. So I think it really is a win-win. And I think both of you guys are parting ways probably at the right time.
For sure. And talk about, they've built up their athlete side, Sock coming in, total stud. Yeah. And the whole content side, Selkirk TV, how, and then also too, just how we together kind of built this blueprint for content, pod, educational videos, newsletter and stuff like that. Then now take a look at all these Selkirk athletes, it's kind of similar, pumping out content. Selkirk TV, I mean, how much content is in their bundle?
Yeah. A lot of them have pods now,
right.
And it's cool videos too, because I think I think if Selkirk, and I don't know this for certain, but it feels like Selkirk might have been the one to spur some of that starting for those pros. And I think it's so cool because I think now maybe where you didn't know James as well, or you didn't know Mary as well, sure. Now you have a whole nother avenue. And honestly, the more content, the better, right? Right. All of that's so good for the sport. It's good for those athletes in particular, building their brands, but it's so important for the sport and the visibility and just the personalities, right? They're all so different. So
right. No, for sure. Cool. And I think just the authentic, intimate side of getting to know somebody as well. K-Mac, take a look at yourself, being on the pod, educational videos has made people see you in a much different light. And I just think it goes a long ways, especially, if the player's not doing a ton of interviews, or if you really haven't gotten to know certain players, putting yourself out there, doing some content, can make you marketable for brands and make fans love you and stuff like that. So I think it's huge. So kind of my story with Selkirk. So starting from the beginning, I first came to Coeur d'Alene, taught a camp. This is 2017. Sorry. So the very first time that I got a glimpse of Selkirk was 2015, played a singles tournament. I was a singles snob back in the day when I first started. And there was a tournament in Coeur d'Alene, the old Coeur d'Alene Classic, sponsored by Selkirk. 99% of the players there are all using the Selkirk paddle. And I remember, I took off that morning at 6 a.m., drove from Yakima all the way to Coeur d'Alene, played all day long, played some guy that was nothing wrong with his age, but he's 58 years old in the finals. beat this gentleman pretty well in the finals, playing 4-5.
Build that confidence.
Hey, build it, right?
You just lost him at the local YMCA.
Hey, I didn't know what my level was, and so after I get my medal, I'm on a high, and I think I'm pretty sure I'm slamming beers and hanging out with a bunch of Selkirk random people. Didn't meet Mike and Rob, but ended up, I was watching the 5-0 match, right? I'm sitting there drinking a beer, medal on, showing off my medal. And I'm watching the 5-0 guys play, and I'm like, shoot. I'm like, I can freaking beat those guys, right? and then about 6 months later, played my first, if you want to call it, wannabe pro tournament, 2016. It was called the Cougar Classic. And people in Oregon, Seattle know exactly what I'm talking about. That tournament went on for a long time.
Walla Walla?
No, it's in
Vancouver, right?
Vancouver. Okay. Vancouver. Same deal. Took off that morning, 6 a.m., drove all the way there. Played Curtis Campbell first round, right? At the time, Curtis, the previous year, finished top 5 at nationals and singles. And so, I knew nothing about that. And right before the match, I think Chris Mills told me that Curtis was kind of a stud. And so right away, nerves are hitting. I use the restroom 10 times. And I'm like, oh no, I got to play this guy, top 5 in the nation, right? End up losing to Curtis, 10-10, 12-10, 12-10, drop down. And play Ashworth in the back draw, play Chris Mills in the back draw. Chris Mills is he's sliding on the gym floor. We're playing with a jugs ball. He's sliding all over him, thinking, I've never even seen that before. I'm like, what the hell is this guy doing? And anyhow, so made it, took the detour route, beat everybody in the back draw, played Curtis again in the finals. It's 10:30 at night. There's not anybody there aside from the guy that drove me there, Skip. And so Skip is cheering me on. I play Curtis, beat him in 3, play the game to 15. It's 14 all. of course, going to full body cramp. I try to finish.
Nice.
I'm like Frankenstein out there. I ended up losing 14-16. Drove home that night, got home at like 1 a.m. It was my son's birthday the next day. I swear I like tried to get up that morning and use the restroom, and I could barely sit down. I could barely walk. I could barely sit down. I was so smoked. That was probably the sorest I've ever been. Anyhow, off of that story, I like a year prior came to Coeur d'Alene, taught a pickleball camp. I think that was like one of my first pickleball camps, and Rob and Mike were in my camp and kind of got to meet those guys. And one thing led to another, and ended up signing on as a brand ambassador for Selkirk. And I remember like that first package that I got from Selkirk, right? Like a bunch of like cotton t-shirts, like cotton heavy hats, super long shorts. I didn't care. I was gonna rock it, right? Free gear, sign me up, baby. And
and back then, like, I mean, Kyle, you probably remember, like you were paying, right? You had to pay
entry fees,
pay entry fees,
zero prize money,
and like skip out on work, right? Or like you did, like drive after work and like drive home before work, and then play your tournament. And then I don't even know, was there even prize money?
Yeah, so my first couple years of playing, it was like $200 or $300,
okay.
and obviously at that time, if I won $100, like I was about ready to like, throw a party, I'm going to spend all this right now. I was. And I swear to God, so from like, 2015 to 2017, I'm playing, I don't know, 10, 12 tournaments a year, maybe a bit more. I was still grinding like 40, 50-hour weeks, like 10-hour days, Tuesday, Wednesday, teaching tennis, teaching some pickleball. And just trying to find a way, I just had that inner competitor in me, and had the competitive juice, and I wasn't quite good enough in tennis, and it just felt so right to dive into something else, and it was so refreshing, and there was this whole new community that was like down to earth and not catty, and anyhow, and then obviously along the way, 2 signature paddles, clothing line, #1 ranking, both singles and doubles, content creation. Got labeled the most electrifying man in sports by Barstool as I was with Selkirk. And anyhow, just want to say thank you, love those guys, and wish you all the best.
Nothing but love.
Nothing but love.
Well, it's pretty cool, Tyson, with the story that you told about how you started and how you met those guys. If you think about where Selkirk was before they signed you, where you were before you signed with them, it's just pretty cool to see the powerhouse that they are in pickleball, and that everything that you've accomplished. So pretty cool. But excited for you guys and this next fun chapter.
Heck yeah, buddy. Okay, Mac, tell us about your holidays.
Yeah, man, honestly, I've just been really enjoying just laying low with family, tried to keep my schedule as clear as possible. I've got some new exciting partnerships for 2024. So I've been getting some deals and some stuff in the works as far as that goes. But that's about as much of a finger as I've lifted in the last couple of weeks. It's just been great hanging out with the kiddos. We did like Christmas laser tag. I like tried to commentate as my kids were playing, like red team versus blue team. We've just been having way too much fun, and we're all excited, bringing the whole family, leaving for Mexico in just a couple of days here. So we're all stoked.
Love it. And we will see you down there. We're running 2 camps back to back in Los Briles at Tres Palapas. Both camps sold out, doing camper dinners, doing a little ATV excursion with both groups, and some of my best times teaching pickleball. Obviously meeting this lady and meeting you, but getting to hang out in Los Briles. That's where my wife and I got married. That's where her family lives a good portion of the year. And anyhow, it's always held something special to my wife. Definitely special to me. And last year, I'm not going to give too much detail, but that little party we had, lasted until 2 or 3 a.m. DJ spinning, beer and liquor is pouring. And fun was had, and I can't tell you how many campers from Los Briles I saw at tournaments this year, and they told me like that was the best experience of their life. Like
honestly,
the best experience. And it's so funny too. I was telling my wife, there's so many of those guys tell me that they love me.
Yeah,
I can't tell you how many guys in their 50s and 60s like they have experience like that. I'm sure you've heard that too. Like just for so much love for the sport of pickleball.
Well, it's pretty rare, and I'll give you a shout out, man. To be able to be nice to your fans is one thing, but to have a camper dinner where you're partying with them, and it's like a college house party for people that are in their 50s, and they haven't had that kind of an experience in 30 years, and be able to do it with someone that they're a big fan of in a sport that they love. It's just really unique, and we've set a pretty big bar for this year, so we got to throw down here.
Right, pressure's on. Pressure's
sure.
on. Sorry, back to our Vegas trip. So after the JOOLA content shoot, hit a Raiders game. Shout out to Miller Lite for plugging us with sweet seats.
Oh, it's so cool.
Met plenty of characters there. I'll tell you what, I've only been to 2 NFL games in my life. Been wanting to go to a Seahawks game forever, but those Raider fans, those guys are different. I mean, there was this one guy with like this like scary mask. He had like these baby heads like, on his shoulders with like spikes coming out, like diehard fans. And that whole stadium just in Vegas, like whether it's a Knights game, going to the NHL or, going to the Raiders game, like just madness.
That stadium though is so beautiful. Like that sounds probably weird for a stadium, but it's like very bright and open and there's glass everywhere and you can see through it.
Front and center, like right on
cool. You
not
drive
right on the strip, but like a block or two off of it.
So close. Yeah. Yeah. And just it was funny, like us sitting in those seats and just how many people just kind of like stand around throughout the game and like they don't like, I mean, we must have seen how many people get kicked out of like trying to sit in someone else's seat. It was so funny. And this poor security guard's just having to like circle and it was just funny to watch. But no, just a ton of characters in general in Vegas, I think.
I was just gonna say the Raiders were really the perfect franchise to go to Vegas because they had that reputation for a while of being like rowdy and different, and just Vegas being Vegas just seems like the perfect fit for a team.
It's perfect.
Well, it's funny too. It's a mixture of like the old Oakland fans who were more than rowdy, and then some of the new Vegas fans. Watch out.
Yeah.
Watch out.
Yeah. Well, and two, so smart. Like I was talking to someone in Vegas about how so now they have what do they have do they have a G League team? They have a football team.
Yeah, it sounds.
They're working on
baseball.
Yeah, it
sounds like a basketball team.
Yeah, because it makes so much sense in Vegas because, like an NFL team, for instance, like if I'm a Seattle Seahawks fan, well, either I can go to Seattle or I can travel to Seattle and do that, or I can go to Vegas and watch them play in Vegas. So like pretty much anybody that is an NFL fan can travel to Vegas, which they want to do, and then watch their team play the Raiders, right? Most teams. And so just the revenue it generates for Vegas too. And especially stacking the sports that can take it all the way year round. It's really helping them fill rooms and stuff like that.
I mean, so we ended up going to a Knights game Friday night as well, and then went to the UFC fights on Saturday at T-Mobile. And that week at T-Mobile, they had like the in-season finals. The Lakers playing somebody else. Lakers ended up winning. That was on Wednesday. They had the Knights game the night before at T-Mobile on Friday night. And then all of a sudden Saturday, they throw an octagon in there. It's just crazy. Like, that place is just rocking.
This can't believe. Yeah. And the turnaround time is just so fast. Like, jeez.
But, UFC 296 on my birthday, probably the best card of the year. I was on such a high all day long. Just itching to get there.
And the night before that, we were invited to a karate event that was there in Vegas. That was super cool too. A guy that plays pickleball, and so it's just a small world.
Crazy story. Came back here. So this guy that I met in New York. It was like downtown New York at a Lifetime facility, which is super cool. There was like 2 courts at a Lifetime, smack dab downtown New York. I ended up just meeting this guy there, Philip Huang, and I met him at Lifetime, and we just said hi, took a photo real quick, and then it's come to find out, it's crazy. It's come to find out there's this combat sport league called Karate Combat, and some of the ex-UFC, Bellator, PFL guys are fighting in there, but they're in this like your typical karate gear, like longer pants, and they're wearing a long sleeve shirt. And they have like pretty light gloves. I don't know how light they are, but anyhow, so he come to find out this guy loves combat sports, is a huge fan of violence, and so him and his buddy thought they'd start this fighter league,
this karate thing. And super cool. When they've like first started it, they kind of envisioned like Street Fighter. I remember like playing Street Fighter like like how every scene was different. Like you're either fighting on the street, like in New York, or you're fighting on top of like, a mountain, or you're, like the different sceneries or whatever. So for a while they were doing that. And like these karate events were in these like super crazy places and like really cool backgrounds. And now they like the one we went to that was like fighting on the moon. And so they had it all like green screen behind. But like if you were watching it live on TV, it looked really cool. And they had some girls there like dressed as aliens. And it was pretty funny.
But so kind of find out really he's like one of the founders of this the sporting league, and he ended up giving us VIP, and then we showed up obviously and hung out and watched some of the fights, and he ended up coming over and then like explaining to me who he was and the whole story, and I'm like, get out of here, no way, it's crazy. And apparently deep down the guy, he likes to see some blood.
Oh yeah.
But and two, it's there's more knockouts per round in karate combat than any other combat sport. So there's a huge following just because like
want to see knockouts.
Yeah, I want to see knockouts, and I want to see like you fighting in a phone booth, kind of like bare knuckle, anyhow,
Real life Street Fighter. I like it.
Yeah. I mean, we'll definitely check out more events with the karate combat. I think that's pretty cool.
But yeah, UFC fights, super sweet. Trump was there, a bunch of celebs. Got to hang out with Ben Greenfield and Ben's wife.
The whole Happy Dad crew was there.
The whole Happy Dad, Steve will do it.
Yeah.
Nate Diaz was in the back. Anyhow, shout out to Ben for hooking us up with tickets and taking care of us. That's his second time getting us tickets now. And Craig and his wife ended up showing up and coming to the UFC event. And Craig, as we all know, is a big combat sport guy. So had my guy there with me, and we watched all the fights. And then afterwards had some fun. Went to Marquee, got a table and drank our life away, and
celebrated his birthday.
Sweet week.
True stories. And when we went to Marquee, as we walked in, they totally took care of you too. They had a big happy birthday Tyson up on the screen as we walked in. So
I saw that. I saw that on social. That was awesome.
That was nice.
K-Mac, so. Tell us about your 2024 takes, what you're thinking about this new ball, just the new players coming in, how the sport's being played. Obviously, you've been behind the mic now and in a much different position in the industry, and definitely known as one of the best commentators out there. So, what do you got for us?
Well, appreciate it, buddy. I mean, it's not going to be a whole lot that hasn't been said before. I mean, I think first with the new ball, sounds like it's going to be the Vulcan ball. I've not personally used it, but I hear it's pretty fast, and I think that's kind of perfect for the direction that the game is going. I think that, pros like myself that could kind of show up there a couple of years ago and win a few rounds or be relatively competitive, at the top end of the game just isn't the case anymore unless you're really treating your body like a professional athlete. I just think the speed, the explosiveness, the strength, the power, you have to have the touch, you have to have the placement. That's part of it, but it's getting to the point now where if you have slow or weak hands, it's too easy for these premium athletes just to blow you up and speed up right through you. So I think we're just going to see more of the same as far as the tempo and the speed of the game, just getting more and more aggressive. And you really need to be in peak athletic shape. I think even in doubles now, to be able to hang with how aggressive even the kitchen rallies are.
Right. No, so true. And K-Mac, I'm just going to let you know that I think you are more than worth six figures with being an MLP coach. Okay, I'm just going to let you know. Okay, you're my guy. You're one of the best camp instructors out there, one of the best educators, and definitely one of the best commentators. So you deserve six figures.
It's certainly heavily implied that I was making six figures coaching MLP. I can assure you that I was not. There's a couple other coaches that I know that we've kind of talked about our salaries. They were under six figures. So I'm not saying that maybe one person out there, a couple people, weren't making that. Maybe if they were being the GM as well, but I don't know.
Pump it up.
And Mama, so there's some new rule changes. K-Mac, didn't know if you have heard about these rule changes.
Yes, some new rules for 2024. A lot of what was, I guess, I think there was like over 90 that were like proposed or written in. And I think it was like just over 20 that ended up like passing. A lot of them were just some wording, some things that need to be clarified, like pretty minor changes. But there were a few that I think are a little bit bigger of a deal. One, if we want to go over them a little bit, one of them is for non-officiated play. If a player feels that their opponent is playing with an illegal paddle, they can actually ask for a head referee or for the tournament director. And then that person, head referee or tournament director, is going to determine the legality of that person's player. So non-officiated play. So I'm guessing for the amateurs. Correct?
Okay.
Right?
During gameplay.
Yeah. Yeah. So if they think that their opponent is playing with an illegal paddle, they can ask for the tournament director. And then I don't know the process after that, like how they determine if they go take it to the protesting area or how.
Not for PPA players, just for amateurs.
It just says non-officiated play. Now, for the PPA players, you guys are doing testing before you even start the day, and then you do testing every round, starting with quarters on. So you guys
playing
are
with those
covered.
hot paddles, amateurs banging away thirds with that D-Lam paddle.
Is that not so true though? You heard about it a lot in amateur play, and I don't think. Probably was just inconsistent on how they were handling it before. So now it's an official rule.
Not to cut you off here. K-Mac, you remember that gentleman, and I'm not throwing shade his way at all, but remember that gentleman at our camp, Palm Springs? He was on like court 1. He had, I don't even know what paddle he had. It was definitely a carbon. And he was just blowing up the ball with that thing.
Oh,
and
it was just an absolute rocket, right?
And you could hear it from miles away. And
didn't you like pull it?
Yeah, I'm like, bro, like I love your drive, but you can't use that. And
do we need to have testing at the camp?
Right. And he's just like, we were like doing a drill where he was banging thirds up the line. He's at the baseline. His partner, who was acting as a teacher, was at the kitchen line punching volleys back. This guy couldn't get any volleys back. He's just putting holes through him. Anyhow, go ahead.
So the next one is, it says, the other one is the removal of the words deliberately and unintentionally in Rule 7L, the carry rule, and 11A, the double hit rule. So why? So the rule before saying that the ref would need to determine if the carry was deliberate or unintentional. And so at that point, obviously it's putting a lot on the ref to try to figure that out. So they just took that out, and now you can't carry whatsoever. So a double hit is still permitted if it's one consistent motion and it was unintentional, but the carry is basically, it just doesn't matter what kind of carry it is. It's a fault. So
right. So that changing the language, basically they're saying the referees aren't going to know the mind of a player that's, whether they're doing it on purpose or not. So they're just not even going to
Right. They're not going to make the referee determine the intent of the carry. Yeah, for sure. Let's see. What else we got here? So additional clarifying criteria have been added to Rule 11E to cover degraded and soft balls, both of which can potentially result in an out-of-round ball. The bottom line is for non-officiated play, the replay of a completed rally is only permitted if the ball is cracked or broken. And in that case, all players on the court have to agree that the ball is cracked or broken to replay. But the whole idea of like a soft ball or a deflated ball or anything like that, that wouldn't count as a replay. Like you can ask to change the ball afterwards, but you don't replay the point.
And those last two rules, is that PPA or is that PPA players?
These are all
amateurs.
USAP. This is just all across the board. The other big one, so now players at the end of an injury timeout, you can actually extend your injury timeout with any timeouts that you have left remaining. And the language previous to that was a little unclear because it said at the end of an injury timeout, if you could not return to the game, you would have to forfeit, right? You would have to retire. And so now if you do have a couple timeouts left, you can go ahead and you can use those on the end to extend your timeout.
And K-Mac, as a ref, should a ref say, I think?
We definitely have a story there, but you know that I would not be a fan of them saying, I think.
Hey, be sure or don't make the call, right?
Oh, that was rough. Yeah, I definitely, probably not my finest hour for saying, I think it might have been wide, overruling one of my calls. So
oh my goodness.
Definitely don't do what I did. Hey, referees, be decisive out there.
Be decisive. I've done plenty of that, K-Mac. Don't worry.
The last and final thing, which I think is the only proposed rule that is under review still and is not determined, is the rule change to make the decision for rally scoring. So that is still pending. So everybody is sending in their notes on where they feel it should go. There's a lot of notes that say maybe it should be used in singles and not in doubles. And there's also a few notes that say it should just be recommended as a scoring option. So a tournament director, I guess so then if it was a sanctioned tournament, the tournament director could determine if he wanted to use either rally or, so you could use either one. Or they could just choose to approve it and the scoring would change completely and now officially be rally scoring versus.
Got it.
Yeah.
Very cool.
So.
Tyson, what do you think about rally scoring? Would you have a problem with it if all of pickleball switched to rally scoring?
That's so tough.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, I mean, the whole excitement aspect, how, most games are very tight. It's a roll of the dice. Obviously, for spectators, I think it's great. For TV, it's great. You can time it. And you've heard me say this plenty of times, but I think for pros that are successful on the PPA tour that are getting medals, they're probably not a fan of it. Why? Because 2 out of 3 regular scoring, you really see who the best player is, or you really see who the best team is. 3 out of 5 regular scoring, you definitely know who the freaking best team is, right? Rally scoring, it's a roll of the dice, man. I think and kind of what I've gotten from it playing MLP, it seems like the more aggressors, the team that brings the pressure, that tries to dictate a bit more, that just applies more pressure, usually ends up on top. Take a look at Julian Arnold. The guy freaking had a stellar. The guy was an MVP playing MLP. So
yeah.
And you're just, obviously you're seeing different people win. It's just a mixed bag. I think if you want consistency, you have to do it the right way. You have to keep the regular scoring.
Tell me this, though. Give me your guys' opinion. Do you feel that it changes the sport?
I don't think it changes the sport. I just think it's not as decisive, and you're going to see a lot more upsets. And, just not the true skilled player always wins, right? Okay, Mac?
Yeah, I think I don't think the scoring really changes the sport much from a strategy standpoint. Obviously, you have to start well if we're talking about MLP. The only way I think it changes the sport just a little bit is having a permanent side like they do in MLP. I think unwinding the stack, I think stacking is a big part of pickleball, but the disadvantage of that is, off the return is being able to get cross court, get there in time, and be able to handle the drive and some of the speed and athleticism with that. So that's one of the things I noticed from the PPAs to MLP is having a side that you play the whole match on and never really having to unwind the stack does change the tactics just a little bit. I think that MLP, the strategy lends itself maybe more to dropping more than driving because you're not catching those players running that further distance. But for the most part, no.
Yeah, I think that's spot on, K-Mac. Teams that like to, bang and crash and play a bit more messy with their thirds. Obviously, playing against regular scoring format, and they have to unwind. There's a set tactic that has to do with the returner coming in late and being able to get some freebies off of that. So no, I've never thought of it that way, but that's definitely spot on. I would stick to regular scoring.
Good.
Right, that's where the heart of pickleball started. Keep it there.
Yeah,
okay?
if we're gonna cut out the back draw, let's just keep the score.
Hey, if we're gonna keep the name pickleball and not change it, okay?
Hey, if rally scoring makes the rounds faster, maybe we got to add back in the back draw.
Right.
But yeah, so we're going to Mexico tomorrow, a couple camps, and then off our way to Palm Springs. K-Mac?
Rushing to Palm Springs.
K-Mac, are we gonna see you in Palm Springs?
No, unfortunately. I actually was asked today to commentate, but I extended my family trip a couple days after in Mexico.
Good man. Right?
Couldn't be that guy.
For sure.
Dad doesn't get a lot of trips with the kiddos.
I feel like,
couldn't be that guy.
Yeah, that's a nice long trip that you should, when you make your way all the way down there, you gotta spend the time for sure.
But from what it sounds like you'll be commentating for PPA this year.
It's still up in the air, to be totally honest with you. I heard kind of the 11th hour about this one, but even last year, I didn't have a lot of notice on how many I was going to do. I'd normally find out, a few weeks beforehand. So to some degree, I'll try to keep my schedule open, but I have heard, and we'll see, that maybe they're going to have some of the players on the mic a little bit more this year. So I don't know if I'm going to be doing as many as I did last year. We'll have to wait and see.
Got it. Okay. I'm sure you'll be getting a knock on the door here very soon. So yeah, but we're heading to Palm Springs, playing the first Grand Slam of the year, all white tournament. Probably one of the most prestigious tournaments of the year.
Yep.
Playing with Dekel Bar, playing with Megan Zahn, and playing some singles, obviously, and looking forward to it. And playing with the new ball.
And it's a major off the bat, so it's a 2000, so it's a rolling start, so similar to nationals, Wednesday you'll play one for the first, or what it be, round of 32, one of each, and then round of 16 the next day, and then so on and so forth. So each event every day. So
Yeah, love it. K-Mac, anything
A new
else?
paddle in hand. New paddle in hand. Your first event.
And a new sword in hand. It is black. It is pretty, and it packs a punch. You know, so funny. So
Tyson, yeah, one thing real quick, because I have not used it yet, but just as far as performance, what do you like about the paddle?
So, you know, my trainer Craig said it the best. You know, he it's so funny. He told me, he's like, you know, I've always been a Selkirk guy, and obviously, like, I'm always gonna back you. But he was like, you know, last year, you know, like anytime that I heard that JOOLA paddle, he was like, it seemed like it was the best version of spin, power, and control. And I mean, it's so.
Craig's got an ear.
Hi, Craig. and so honestly, what I have figured out by playing with my paddle for the last month or so is it's the same shape as my Invicta. So not much has changed there, just carbon face, different technology. But you know, best of both worlds, super forgiving. The hitting zone is very consistent, whether it's at the top of the paddle, it's at the bottom. It's got that carbon grit. I'm able to shape the ball better. I'm trusting my drops more. I'm not like guiding and steering my drop. Love the 002. You know, I help build that sucker, but I just felt like I just had a hard time shaping certain balls just because there was so much action and so much hotness off the paddle. This guy, you know, the new JOOLA Magnus, dwell time's a little longer. I can swing a bit more on my drop, shape things better. I'm looking to use the forehand more on the left. And if somebody comes at me, it comes back in a hurry. So, you know, don't have a whole lot of negatives about it. Huge fan, and pumped to be debuting it in Palm Springs next Wednesday. So
I'm officially going to be trying to steal one from you in Mexico. So guard your paddles.
Yeah, there's only like how many in existence right now. So it's funny. We were hanging some up in here on the podcast set, and I think we've got some sticky pads that I've got to.
Paddles are behind us here.
Yeah. And so Tyson's like, no, don't put it on the surface.
Yeah, don't put the sticky stuff on the carbon.
Don't put the sticky stuff on my paddle.
Put it on the edge.
I only have X amount of paddles.
Okay, well, K-Mac, anything else for us, buddy?
No, excited to see you guys in person in a couple of days, and travel safe. Happy New Year, and excited for a big year for everybody.
Love it. Grateful for you. Grateful for you, Mama. My name is Tyson McGuffin. This is the McGuffin Show. We'll see you guys next episode.